Back in the day, some cars were built to impress quietly. No hype, just guts. Two of them vanished without a trace. One had supercar DNA, the other hauled lumber, and might have outrun your uncle's Camaro. Let's dive in. Number 12, Subaru XT, 1985 to 1991. You'd think a car shaped like a stealth fighter would have become a cult classic. But instead, this machine slipped through the cracks of history, quietly erased. It had the kind of silhouette that could stop you mid-step, a sharp wedge cutting through the wind, doors sculpted like folded paper, and pop-up headlights that blinked like a secret. Nothing else on the road looked quite like it, and still doesn't. But what's shocking isn't just the design, it's what was under that low-slung hood. At its peak, it packed a turbocharged 1.8-liter flat-4 engine, pushing 111 horsepower and 134 pound-feet of torque. That may sound modest now, but paired with Subaru's early all-wheel drive system and a weight just under 2,600 pounds, the car felt like a spaceship for its time. It could hit 0 to 60 in about 9.2 seconds. But the real thrill was in how planted and confident it felt, especially on wet or twisting roads. And then, there were the controls. The cockpit was styled like an aircraft, with pod-mounted buttons, a digital dash, and a joystick-inspired shifter. Even the steering wheel looked borrowed from a concept sketch. It was strange, but captivating. Yet despite all that innovation, the car never found its audience. It was too weird, too ahead, and too slow to back up its looks. Maintenance got tricky, parts dried up, and Subaru moved on. Today, barely anyone remembers it ever existed. Up next, a Ford that tried to be sleek and sporty, but ended up forgotten like last year's concept sketch. Number 11, Ford EXP, 1982 to 1988. It was supposed to signal a new era, sporty, sleek, a little rebellious. And yet, the moment it rolled off the production line, it was already misunderstood. From a distance, it looked like a coupe trying to shake off its Econobox roots. But the closer you looked, the more it gave itself away. Based loosely on the Escort platform, this machine shared more DNA with a grocery getter than a Grand Tour. But Ford had dreams. They sculpted a two-seat body, tightened the profile, and gave it a name that suggested experimental. The EXP launched with a 1.6-liter inline-4, producing just 70 horsepower and around 85 pound-feet of torque. Even later models with fuel injection and a 1.9-liter engine only managed 106 horsepower. Not exactly thrilling by any standard. Acceleration from 0 to 60, a sluggish 13 seconds. But it wasn't just about speed, it felt different inside. Narrow bucket seats, a futuristic dashboard for the 80s, and a cabin layout that hinted at European influence. The ride was smooth, steering, light, too light. It was trying so hard to feel special, while never escaping its economy car origins. Still, it almost worked. The idea of an affordable, fuel-efficient American two-seater was bold. People wanted sportiness without the price tag. But the timing was off, the execution was lukewarm, and the market just shrugged. Sales dwindled. Ford quietly pulled the plug. Next, we meet a car designed by a legend, tuned by another, and still it faded faster than a forgotten mixtape in the glove box. Number 10 is Isuzu Impulse, 1983 to 1992. Some cars vanish because they're boring. This one vanished despite being unforgettable. It had the look of an Italian dream and the touch of British precision, all wrapped around a Japanese badge that few respected back then, and even fewer remember now. At first glance, it didn't belong in the same showroom as Troopers and pickups. Its low, curving roofline, long hood, and Giugiaro-designed body screamed European flair. But this was no rebadged import. It was Isuzu's original effort to step into the performance spotlight. And to seal the deal, they let Lotus work on the suspension. That's right, Lotus handling on an Isuzu coupe. A collaboration nobody saw coming. Under the hood, things kept evolving. Early models came with a 1.9-liter inline-4, making 90 horsepower. But by the late 80s, the turbocharged RS variant packed a punchier 160 horsepower and 150 pound-feet of torque. The 0 to 60 time dropped to 7.5 seconds, which for a car that looked this good and cost this little, felt like a steal. Add in rear-wheel drive on early models, and it had all the right moves. So what went wrong? Brand perception. Isuzu just couldn't shake its utilitarian image. The name lacked prestige. Dealers didn't know how to sell it. Worse, when the second gen arrived with front-wheel drive and a more anonymous design, it was game over. The next car is a muscle coupe that almost made rental cars cool until it got buried in its own badge. Number 9, Chevrolet Lumina Z34, 1991 to 1994. It had the heart of a warrior, but wore the uniform of a desk clerk. At a glance, it looked like something your uncle would rent for a weekend trip. But under the badge, beneath a family sedan disguise, was a surprisingly fierce and forgotten machine. Born in the early 90s, this version wasn't your average Lumina. Chevrolet took the bland front-wheel drive platform and gave it a jolt. A 3.4-liter DOHC V6, pumping out 210 horsepower and 215 pound-feet of torque. Mated to a 5-speed manual transmission, it hit 0 to 60 in just under 7 seconds. That's faster than a Mustang GT of the same era. Let that sink in. The Z34 came loaded with sporty tweaks. Dual exhausts, stiffer suspension, a ground effects package, and bucket seats that hugged tighter than you'd expect from a commuter car. On paper, it had everything: power, sound, attitude, and yet it never got the glory. The problem? Image. No matter how much punch it packed, it still looked like a Lumina. Rental fleet associations ran deep. It was fast but forgettable. There was no cult following, no secondhand hype, no tuner scene to resurrect it. Just a silent fade into the backdrop of 1990s domestic cars. And now, even seasoned gearheads forget it ever existed. Next up, a mid-sized truck so rare, even Suzuki fans debate if it was real. Stick around. You won't believe what they tried to pull off. And hey, if you're enjoying this trip through the automotive twilight zone, hit that subscribe button. We've got more erased legends coming your way. Number 8, Suzuki Equator, 2009 to 2012. It wasn't a prototype. It wasn't a concept. It was real. A mid-sized pickup wearing a badge no one expected to see on a truck, and then vanishing before anyone could even figure out what it was. The strange part? It wasn't even really theirs. This forgotten model was Suzuki's bold attempt to break into the American truck market by borrowing a platform from Nissan. Underneath, it was nearly identical to the Frontier. Same 4.0-liter V6, same 261 horsepower, 281 pound-feet of torque, and even the same frame. The performance was solid, 0 to 60 in around 7.5 seconds, and it could tow up to 6,500 pounds. On paper, that's more than respectable. It was strong, capable, and backed by a 7-year warranty. So why did no one buy it? Timing, marketing, and a badge that simply didn't belong in the truck world. Suzuki never had a foothold with American truck buyers, and the few who walked into a showroom to see one often didn't even know it existed. It launched during an economic downturn, sold in tiny numbers, and disappeared with barely a whisper. Now it's one of those vehicles that even hardcore enthusiasts have to Google. Seriously, have you ever seen one in person? Drop a comment and let me know. Number 7, Mazda Millenia, 1993 to 2002. You wouldn't guess it by looking, but this quiet executive sedan was once meant to lead a revolution. It was supposed to launch an entirely new luxury division, Mazda's answer to Lexus, Acura, and Infiniti. Instead, it ended up marooned, unloved, and eventually erased. This car wasn't designed as just another Mazda. It was the flagship for a brand that never materialized. The project, known as Amati, collapsed before it could even launch. But the Millenia survived as its only remnant. And underneath its understated shape was one of the most curious powertrains ever fitted to a production sedan. Forget turbochargers or traditional superchargers. Mazda gave it a 2.3-liter Miller Cycle V6, an unusual engine that used delayed intake valve timing and a belt-driven supercharger to squeeze out 210 horsepower and 210 pound-feet of torque, while delivering better fuel efficiency than its rivals. 0 to 60 came in around 7.8 seconds, but the power delivery felt smooth, composed, and oddly futuristic. The cabin was quiet, polished, and tailored more like a Lexus than a mainstream Mazda. Real wood trim, soft touch materials, and tech that felt advanced for the mid-90s. But buyers were confused. It was too refined for a Mazda, yet lacked the badge to play in the luxury league. No one knew where it belonged. And as German sedans tightened their grip on the segment, the Millenia quietly exited stage left, taking the entire Amati dream with it. But the upcoming car is possibly one of the strangest automotive collaborations of its time. A convertible born from a transatlantic partnership. Number 6, Chrysler TC by Maserati, 1989 to 1991. It sounds like a punchline now. A luxury roadster from two brands that couldn't have been more different. One was rooted in Detroit practicality, the other in Italian flair and volatility. Together, they built a car so confused, so mismatched in ambition, that it quietly disappeared into the margins of automotive history. The goal was lofty, a premium two-seater to challenge the Mercedes SL and Cadillac Alente. Chrysler poured millions into this project, entrusting Maserati with the styling and final assembly. The result? A tan leather-wrapped cruiser with hand-stitched details, removable hardtop, and an identity crisis from day one. Most versions came with a 2.2-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, making 160 horsepower and 171 pound-feet of torque. But the real unicorn was the Maserati-built variant, a 16-valve head on the same 2.2-liter block, co-developed with Cosworth, producing 200 horsepower. 0 to 60 came in a respectable 7.6 seconds, but only around 500 of those were made. The rest? Slower, heavier, and far less exotic than the badge suggested. The styling barely differentiated it from a Chrysler LeBaron, a car you could rent at the airport for $19.95 a day. And yet this cost nearly $35,000 at the time, roughly the same as a new Corvette. Buyers were baffled. Chrysler fans didn't want Italian quirks. Maserati purists didn't want badge engineering. Dealers couldn't move them. And by 1991, the TC was buried under its own contradictions. But coming up as a Pontiac so ahead of its time, it made Quattro look outdated, and still, no one talks about it. Number 5, Pontiac 6000 STE AWD, 1988 to 1991. Most people think of Pontiac as muscle, Firebirds, GTOS, loud pipes, and smoky burnouts. But tucked away in the late 80s, they built something radically different, quiet, fast, and intelligent. And it was light years ahead of its time. What looked like a modest four-door midsizer was actually one of the first American sedans to feature full-time all-wheel drive, a driver information center, and a rally-tuned suspension. This wasn't some half-baked trim package. The STE AWD was a full-blown attempt at creating an American alternative to the Audi Quattro. Under the hood, it housed a 3.1-liter V6, making 135 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque, sending power to all four wheels through a 3-speed automatic. Not blistering on paper, 0 to 60 in about 9.5 seconds. But the real story was in how it handled. The AWD system gripped the pavement like nothing else from Detroit at the time, and the suspension was surprisingly taut for a family sedan. Inside it was loaded, digital gauges, steering wheel controls, an onboard trip computer, even a voice alert system that sounded like it was pulled from a science fiction film. Pontiac called it high-tech. The press didn't disagree, and yet no one bought it. It was too advanced for its badge, too subtle for its tech. The STE AWD never got the spotlight, just polite applause from a few reviewers and a short shelf life. But what happens when a brand tries to sell luxury by borrowing credibility from across the ocean, only to end up with neither? Number 4, Sterling 825/827, 1987 to 1991. It had the bones of a legend, the heart of one too, a smooth revving Honda V6, the same found in the early Acura legend. But this wasn't an Acura, and that's where things went wrong. What arrived in the US in the late 80s looked like a calculated move, a British luxury sedan powered by Japanese engineering. On paper, it made sense. Reliability from the East, refinement from the West. The Sterling 825 and 827 came equipped with a 2.5-liter, later 2.7-liter, Honda V6, producing up to 177 horsepower and 170 pound-feet of torque, with a 0 to 60 time hovering around 8.6 seconds. The cabin boasted real wood trim, leather seats, and a classic upright dash design that tried hard to say prestige. But beneath the surface, things were unraveling. Build quality was a mess. Panels didn't line up. Electronics were flaky. Switchgear broke. And while the engine kept running, everything around it seemed determined to fall apart. It left customers confused. How could a car powered by Honda be this unreliable? The answer: Rover. Sterling was Rover's attempt to re-enter the US market after a long absence. But instead of rebirth, it became a warning. Poor dealer support and endless quality issues dragged the name down fast. By the early 90s, sales collapsed. The brand was pulled, and Sterling vanished without ceremony. And yet, in some scrapyards, you'll still find them. Quiet reminders of what happens when even the right engine can't save the wrong car. What follows isn't just forgotten. It's mythologized. An American-built supercar that promised the moon and crashed back to Earth just as fast. Number 3, Vector W8, 1989 to 1993. Some cars whisper into existence. This one roared, hissed, and threatened to rewrite the definition of American performance forever before it collapsed under its own legend. The name wasn't backed by a legacy brand. There were no decades of racing history or factory tours. Just a California-based startup with a wild vision. Build a hypercar that could outrun Ferraris, Lamborghinis, even fighter jets. And they almost did. The Vector W8 didn't just look fast, it was fast. Its angular, fighter plane-inspired body concealed a 6.0-liter twin-turbocharged V8, pushing out a claimed 625 horsepower and 649 pound-feet of torque. Some insiders said real figures were even higher. That power translated into a jaw-dropping 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds, and a top speed flirting with 240 miles per hour, territory only a few dared enter in the early 90s. It had a carbon Kevlar body, aerospace-grade interior switches, a joystick-style shifter, and cockpit gauges that made it feel more like a jet than a car. For a while, the hype was real. Then the chaos began. Production delays, lawsuits, leadership changes. Only 17 units were ever built. The company spiraled into internal battles, and the W8, once dubbed the American Dream Machine, became a collector's rumor. Today, it's barely spoken about in mainstream car culture, despite being one of the most extreme road-legal vehicles America ever produced. If this is the first time you've really heard about it, you're not alone. And if you want more stories like this, cars that burn bright and vanish fast, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There's plenty more waiting just beneath the surface. Number 2, Dodge Rampage, 1982 to 1984. At first glance, it looked like someone merged a compact hatchback with a pickup, and somehow it worked. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a prototype. It was a real production vehicle you could walk into a dealership and buy. But only if you caught it in that tiny window before it disappeared. Built off Chrysler's front-wheel drive L-body platform, this oddball was part car, part truck, all confusion. It had a unibody chassis, a low ride height, and the drivetrain of a Dodge Omni. But instead of a trunk, you got a 6-foot-long cargo bed, fully functional and shockingly usable. Under the hood, a 2.2-liter inline-4 delivering 96 horsepower and 119 pound-feet of torque, with a 0 to 60 time around 11.1 seconds. Not fast, but weirdly fun. The Rampage was never meant to tow trailers or win drag races. It was a compact utility vehicle for people who didn't need a full-size pickup, but still wanted the look and feel of one. In a way, it predicted the rise of today's lifestyle trucks. Before the world was ready, it came in bold colors, it had available graphics packages, manual transmission was standard, and yet sales were modest at best. Dodge quietly ended production after just 3 model years. No revival, no follow-up, just silence. Do you think something like this could work in today's market with retro styling and hybrid power? Drop a comment and let me know. This one still sparks debate. And now we're down to one. A gull-wing sports car built in Canada, designed to save lives and totally erased from the performance car canon. Number 1. Bricklin SV1, 1974 to 1975. It had the drama of a DeLorean years before the DeLorean ever hit the streets. Gull-wing doors, acrylic panels in bold, safety-first colors, a name that sounded more like a skyscraper than a car. And for a brief moment, it looked like the future of North American performance. But the story behind this machine is even wilder than its shape. The SV1, short for Safety Vehicle 1, was the brainchild of Malcolm Bricklin, a businessman with a flair for ambition and risk. Backed by millions in Canadian government funding, this gull-wing sports car was built in New Brunswick and marketed as a high-performance machine that could also protect you in a crash. Its sleek shell was made from bonded acrylic over fiberglass. Its front and rear bumpers were engineered to absorb impact. Even the colors, like safety orange and bright green, were chosen for visibility. Under the hood, depending on the year, you got either an AMC source 360 cubic inch V8 or a 351 Windsor Fight 8 from Ford, with output ranging from 220 to 250 horsepower and torque, near 300 pound-feet. That gave it a 0 to 60 time in the low 7-second range, which wasn't just quick for 1974, it was dangerous-looking quick. But quality issues, supplier delays, a bloated price tag, and constant management drama tanked it fast. Only 2,854 units were ever built. The company folded after just 2 years, leaving behind a trail of lawsuits, abandoned factories, and a car that was too strange, too bold, and too broken to survive. Now it exists only in blurry classifieds and memory, erased but not forgotten. Which one of these lost machines would you resurrect for one more blast down the highway? Quietly fast, totally forgotten, and impossible to pin down? Drop your choice in the comments. I read everyone. And if you're into cars that slip through the cracks, hit that subscribe button and stick around.